Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our monthly public safety Zoom meeting. We'll start as usual with Major Coletti reviewing the crime location maps and statistics for the past month, for the month of February. And then we have a special presentation tonight, Lieutenant Aaron Smith, who's the Chief Pilot for Prince George's County Police Aviation Unit. And that should be a very interesting presentation and answer some of the community questions that we often get about the aviation unit. So we had a little bit of delay. We were just ironing out our technology, and so we're ready to roll. And I'll turn it over to Major Coletti. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? We'll start off with the first slide. If Sharon, if you can throw it up there. You go to the next page. All right, so for the month of February, we had a pretty good month compared to January. We had 2 commercial robberies, 1 citizen robbery, 1 assault, 1 residential burglary, 2 theft from autos, 8 thefts, and 3 auto thefts, stolen vehicles. So Sharon, you got the next page. So the 2 robberies we had in the city, commercial robberies, on February 20th, we had one at the Home Depot, 4700 block of Cherry Hill Road. It was basically a shoplifter that it turned into a robbery based on the force that he used to get the merchandise out as he assaulted one of the employees. So that bumped it up to a felony. It was a commercial robbery. On February 22nd, 7201 Baltimore Avenue at the 7-Eleven, we had a commercial armed robbery. And just let everybody know that the group that hit that 7-Eleven is also responsible for other commercial robberies in the county and also in Washington, D.C. So we're working with them to try to identify the suspects. And the only citizen robbery we had was at the Days Inn at 9000 block of Baltimore Avenue. It was basically the suspect and the victim. They're smoking marijuana, and the suspect by force took some of the victim's property. So Sharon, if you go to the next slide, please. It's not really much talk about the one assault that we had in the city. We'll go to the next slide. So we only had 1 residential burglary, and that was in Old Town. Sharon, you can jump over to the next slide. So we had, which is pretty good for the month, we only had 2 theft from autos, which I can tell you right now, we're seeing a big increase in Prince George's County, along with all the other counties that border us, along with Washington, D.C. So for only 2 for the month, that's a good positive outlook. Sharon, you go to the slide regarding auto thefts. So just 3 auto thefts for the month, not bad. Sharon, you can slide over to the noise complaint slide. 56 noise complaints for the month of February. Quality of life, we had 111 calls for service regarding quality of life issues. So what's interesting for this is that if you see that we had 110 traffic stops in the city for the month, along with we made 9 field contacts with suspicious persons throughout the city. And if you look at the number and the locations of the stops, we're basically where all the crime is for the city over the last several months. And I think with the numerous traffic stops we made, I think that keeps the numbers down. So our numbers for this month are not bad. So a lot of good proactive police work being done in the city. Your next slide, Sharon. Just an overall graph for everybody to take a look at. And I think we can go to the last page, Sharon. Last slide. All right, I got two updates. Excuse me, I got two updates for just to talk about real quickly. I've received a lot of emails regarding updates for the first degree assault, which was a cutting, which took place on January 23rd at the 9400 block of Limestone Place. I just want to mention that the suspect has been arrested and he was being held without bond in the Department of Corrections. So I know there's some concern about that. He was a roommate. It's been he's been arrested and he's at the Department of Corrections. Even though this occurred on March 1st, I just want to bring it up to everybody's attention. We had an indecent exposure that occurred at Guilford Road at Rhode Island Avenue. The suspect is a male who lives in Washington, D.C. The victim is a college student, a female. The suspect, during the commission of the crime, was wearing an ankle bracelet for the court system in D.C. for a prior indecent exposure. So based on our investigative leads, we were able to identify the suspect, and we applied for and obtained a warrant for his arrest. As of, I guess you say last week, we have not picked him up yet, but he does have an outstanding warrant. So some good work by our investigators. And I think that's it for crime. I'll open it up real quick for any questions or discussions so that we can turn it over to Lieutenant Smith.
Major, you have two questions in the chat. Requesting the times of the noise complaints.
Okay, I don't have that information regarding a timeline for the noise complaints. And the last question?
The next question is what are the quality of live calls? And is that number normal per month?
I don't have my stat sheet or for last month's quality of life. So I can't really answer that. Bob, do you have that information in front of you by chance?
No, but the definition is on the last page.
What's that?
The definition, yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, I got the definition. How many did we have last month? For January.
I'll pull that up for you. Just give me a second. So I'll just read it. So for anyone interested for quality of life, it's calls for service that include disorderly conduct, loitering, person smoking. The biggest call that we get a lot is people smoking marijuana or any type of drug complaint. So those are the type of calls when we talk about quality of life. It also could be a call for homeless people, could be a call for people riding skateboards, calls such of that nature. The number for January was 92.
All right, so we're right in the same ballpark. Not a little bit more this month, but we're still in the same ballpark.
And sir,
So-
this is Smitty. We also get a lot of the firework calls, which also come out as gunshots. Those come in as quality of life, and we get a lot of those.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That's definitely true. So before I turn it over to Lieutenant Smith, last month
my prevention tip was to tell your family, your friends, your neighbors to lock your doors, your house, your car, your shed. This month, the prevention tip's going to be, I'm not endorsing anybody in particular, but to try to encourage people to get some type of surveillance system on their house, like the Ring cameras. There's more than just Ring, but that goes a long way when we're investigating crimes. So if you can encourage your family members, your neighbors, your friends, that'd be a great plus for the police department. I can say that. So what I'll do now is I'm going to introduce Lieutenant Aaron Smith.
Before you do that, we have 2 hands raised and 1 more question in the chat.
Sure. All right, go ahead.
So I believe Councilmember Kabir. be
Yeah.
first. Sorry.
Thank you. It's fine. Thank you, Major Clarity. Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you did. One clarifying question I have, the slide that you showed about the traffic stops and the what is the term you and the field interviews, do they include the citations you gave, the police gave about bad mufflers, the modified mufflers in the vehicles?
Those are all traffic stops that we initiate in the city.
Okay, so we had about 110s. All of them include the bad muffler citation, or some of them include bad muffler?
They all include any type of traffic stop we make. Now you have to understand this. This data only captures what officers call out over the police radio. An officer can make a traffic stop and not call out with our communications division to let them know that he's on a traffic stop.
Mhm.
This is all that's captured by officers calling out with the dispatcher, advising them they're on a traffic stop. Right?
Mhm.
So just if you understand, a traffic stop, we can issue 0 citations or we can issue 10 citations. So
Okay,
under 10 traffic stops, I think it was, or 111 for the
Under
month.
10.
Those are the ones that the officers are calling out with. A lot of times when officers are working a traffic assignment, when we're
Yeah.
talking about people running stop signs, a lot of officers will not call out on every traffic stop just because it takes up too much airtime. So I hope that answers your question.
yeah, so am I hearing correct that some of these traffic stops may include things like a stop sign violation in addition to the bad muffler violation, correct?
Yes.
Is there any way to get a breakdown? I know you do include that in the weekly report somewhere. Is it possible to do it in the map, maybe in another add another item in the legend, another color maybe, to show the bad muffler violation? The reason I'm asking,
No, it is not.
the reason I'm asking, there has been a very, you probably hear that as well. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of interest in the community to see what our police officers are doing. And you guys do a fantastic job. We have ramped up going after this kind of violations, and there has been great progress you made. So I'm trying to give you kudos for that and try to highlight the progress you have made. And we can say, just yesterday, someone was asking, where is the data? I said, yes, the people, our police are working on it, but I couldn't give any number. So it'll be helpful for me to promote your work, the good work you have been doing.
So there's no way we could do a map to identify traffic stops regarding loud mufflers.
Mm.
When the officers clear that traffic stop, they clear it, whether they write a citation, whether it's a real citation. It doesn't show what type of traffic stop it was. So that information I would not be able to do. But council member, if you look at the weekly report, I put every traffic stop I will put on that weekly report if it's regarding loud mufflers. That's the only traffic stops that I will put on there on the weekly report. When we do make a traffic stop regarding a loud muffler, that's identified on the weekly report. And also I have the total numbers of the citations since last April that we have written regarding loud mufflers. So that's all identified on the weekly report.
Okay, so the data is there, it's just we don't display it here because this data come probably directly from PGPD's data source, not from our weekly reports. Yeah, okay, no worries, I don't want to take the time, probably can talk offline with Bob Ryan to see.
So the maps that we present at this meeting are all calls that Prince George's Police responded to within the city limits of College Park for the previous month. And so, yeah, it's not just contract officer calls, but all calls, as Major said, that go through communications.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'll talk offline with you. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Magnus. Are you?
Okay, I have a question. I read in the Beltsville News that the county has implemented via the website a way to report non-emergency kind of issues. And I'll give you an example. My car got bumped into overnight because somebody went down the street and wasn't paying attention. I need to get a police number, case number for my insurance company. Is that a valid use of this? And it's brand new. It's not something that's existed, and I haven't heard about it other than accidentally finding it out through reading the Beltsville News.
So Carol, that's a good question. You're incorrect. We do not have a system currently where you can make a report and get a case number online. What you can do is you can request for someone to call you or respond to your residence to make a police report. That's the only thing that you're doing when you use that web-based, I call it a call for, excuse me for a minute. All right, we're working a shooting in District 1, Division 1. So that does not take a report. That does not take the place of a police officer calling you or coming out to your residence. That only will put you on a list for somebody to call you or come to your house. So that does not take place.
Yeah, I just, it would eliminate me having to put the call in to get scheduled to get somebody to come out to my house.
Well, that's true, but here's the point. The county's always slow in initiating or starting up these type of web-based reporting systems. They are in the process of doing it, just like Montgomery County has it and other counties. We do not currently have it. They are working on it, and I can't give you a date when it's going to go live, but it's something that the county is working on.
Okay, thank
Sharon,
you.
is there a question in the chat box?
Yes, from Ms. White. How do we go about getting dates and times for the noise complaints so that we can identify trends? Is an MPIA needed for that information?
Well, I guess I could always have our analysis look that up for me. If you're looking for a certain address, I'm not going to provide every address for every noise complaint, because if you see it, it's way too many. So if somebody is interested in a particular address, they can go through Bob, and I'll have our crime analysis look it up and figure out how many calls for service we've had at a certain address. Is that fair? Sharon, what are you?
I'll chime in, just to say, we're not looking for addresses. We're looking to identify trends for days of the week and times.
And for what organization? What are you trying to get this information for?
So I live at 4707 Calvert Road.
All right. I mean, Bob, I have to talk to you offline about that.
Okay.
All right, so just real quickly, going back, a recommendation, I'm not endorsing anybody, but if everybody could try to get some type of camera system at their house, it goes a long way. It may not help it. It may not identify somebody that's currently breaking into your house, but it could help us identify suspects. For example, if there's a crime committed a block away from your residence, a lot of times we'll see the suspect vehicle or the suspect themselves go by a camera. It's a great investigative lead for us. So just another prevention tip out there, something you could consider. Any other questions, Sharon?
I don't see any more hands raised or questions in the chat.
All right. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Aaron Smith. He's the commander in charge of our aviation division. I can say this, over the last several years, I had the honor to work with him. He's a very dedicated person to the section, to the aviation section. He does a lot of work, a lot of time spent in his off duty hours, making sure that the helicopters are running. He has a great crew. I'll tell you this, everybody that works for the aviation section is very dedicated. Lieutenant Smith is also a member of our Army Reserve. He also flies helicopters for the Army. And at this time, I'll introduce Aaron. And Aaron, go ahead, and the show's yours, buddy.
I appreciate it, sir. Thanks very much. And also probably the third most senior College Park contract officer, hired in 2005. So City of College Park means a lot to me. My oldest brother, who's in his 70s, lived on Norwich. And so there's a lot of history there, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here tonight. Just briefly, I've been on the department for 24 years. I've been a military officer. I'm a lieutenant colonel now for 27 years. So aviation is my life. And the helicopter unit, I have a presentation. It's about 10 slides just to kind of show you what you do instead of looking at my face. And then I have about an 8-minute video, which is 3 different events from the helicopter that were actually in College Park. And when we get to that, there's some neat things about it also relating to College Park contract officers. There are 4 of them in the aviation unit. So we really do love where we work. The unit started in 2000. It was a federal grant for $2 million. The county had to pony up 10%. And so we started the unit for $2.2 million. It's been in service, as I said, since 2000. I've been in the unit since before it started. I was asked as a military guy to write SOPs. So in summary, about the history of the unit, 22 years, accident, incident free. We've caught over 2,200 felony apprehensions. We've recovered over 1,000 stolen or low-jack vehicles. We've saved 5 lives that would have perished had the helicopter not been there. This 2000, when we got our 4 aircraft put into service, was a record year for us. And then 2020, and then 2021 was another record year. We had 202 apprehensions of felony suspects, and we had 85 of them were carjack suspects. We found 35 weapons from the helicopter. In the past, if we found a weapon, it was either on the individual or in the individual's car. Our new equipment that you're going to see in the video is good enough that we can actually find weapons that are thrown from suspects and from cars as long as an hour to an hour and a half after the event. So it's pretty stellar technology. So let me go ahead and I will share this presentation. And let me make sure that it's actually sharing here. Are you seeing that, Sharon?
Yes,
And
in the full screen. Yes, thank you.
okay. You're welcome to write down my mobile number. I ask that you use it in the best means, especially if it's related to aviation. It's nothing secret. It's actually in the College Park contract officer list. Here is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it. You all can see that. One of the things that folks need to know is we're not just public safety. We help school board, fire board, the Emergency Operations Center, Public Works. We also serve approximately 33 municipalities. We support 4 counties that are connected to us. We support Washington, D.C. at times, Virginia, and then we have federal partnerships with the FBI, DEA, ATF. They call upon us because we have one of the best records of surveillance without burning the call. There will be operations where there'll be over 100 agents, folks wanted for multiple murders, homicides in different states, home invasion, and we are the linchpin to keep the whole mission going as from for surveillance and actually keeping an eyes on the suspect. And the reason that we're successful at that is we operate the world's quietest helicopter. So you wonder, well, what's the world's quietest helicopter? Well, it's 85 decibels at 500 feet. And so then you go, well, what's 85 decibels? It's quieter than a little push mower, a 20-inch push mower in your front yard. And so in an urban environment with us up at 500 feet, but normally up at 800 feet, the urban environment is actually louder than our aircraft, which is unlike any other helicopter. And then we also have a continuity of government mission. There's 2 of them that we support if there was ever another 9/11. This is standard public safety missions. You can see we do proactive patrols. Every single one of the calls that we had with College Park that you'll see on the little video, we were on proactive patrol. 2 of them were self-initiated. In other words, we found the crime going on. It wasn't a call for service. We do missing persons. You can see vehicle pursuits. It allows the officers on the ground to actually back off. It's a safer pursuit. Fleeing felons, crowd control. You all have probably heard, speaking of loud exhaust pipes, they have these ride out issues where these loud cars that have been modified illegally all get together and try to shut down streets, neighborhoods, and cause mayhem. And we are involved with that, with gathering video and actually pointing out who the issues are. The big operation we did before Christmas yielded 185 traffic citations, 17 vehicle impounds, 5 arrests, and 3 handguns. So it was a very good mission. There's the aircraft that we operate. We operate 4 of them. One thing you might think is, well, that's expensive. They actually, the 2 that I recently got were less than $1 million a piece. In helicopter world with turbine engines, that's incredible. If you've seen the Maryland State Police helicopter, those are $13.5 million aircraft before they put all the equipment inside. So by the time they're done, it's over $15 million. A lot of people think that we're very expensive to operate. I think that's very relative. We are actually only $355 an hour direct operating costs. That compared to Maryland State Police at $7,200. So we are one of the lowest direct operating costs in the United States of America. So quiet is our aircraft that I'm actually a member of the Congressional Oversight Committee for Helicopter Noise in the DMV. I'm the only operator that's a member other than military. Usually it's people that advise manufacturers, environmental concerns, and the politicians themselves. We're there because unlike every other unit in the region, we have not received one noise complaint in our 22 years of operation, except for one person from College Park. And I will leave that where it lies right now. There's our main mission equipment. You can see in the top, that's the FLIR camera and the searchlight. LoJack, which is what receives the Rotheta tracking unit, receives LoJack. They don't use die packs and money from bank robberies anymore. They use little diodes so we can track it. We can track certain cell phones that are federally warranted and up on a wire, Alzheimer's patients, and including some young children that have a tendency to run away. You can buy a bracelet and we can track that. We can also live downlink our video to command, and we have a very robust computer system. Our thermal camera, that's the old picture at the top. The new camera, if you look, that's the fuel truck. And that picture looks like a black and white picture. It is not. It is thermal, which is heat. And that's from over 1,100 feet away. So it is a very good camera. It does not see through trees. It's not X-ray vision. And the reason why people worry about 4th and 14th Amendment type things, that doesn't apply, is it's a passive receiver. All it is a little disc on the camera that senses heat. So that picture that you see in the upper right and that you'll see in the videos are built from 8th degree Fahrenheit differences in temperature. It builds a picture. So it is a passive receiver. We mentioned Rho Theta. We can also fight fires with our Bambi bucket. And then we have a PA system that has been very useful over the last few months that we've been using it. We have a tactical bench so that we can insert members of our EST team. That's something that we started under Major Coletti, which has been when he was the commander of special operation, and that has been very useful. And then synthetic vision for the pilots. We'll have one of the most advanced aircraft when it comes to the avionics in it. By 2020, the FAA wanted ADS-B, which is basically, in short, a surveillance system so that aircraft can see each other. We did that 3 years early. And in addition to that, it has traffic avoidance, obstacle avoidance, wire avoidance, and weather radar. So it's a very advanced system. Our maintenance is provided by Summit Aviation. If you've ever driven up 301 towards Pennsylvania on the Eastern Shore, you pass a famous airport there that was started by the DuPonts. That's the company that Paul works for, and he's been with us for over 20 years. So the majority of the safety record mechanically to the unit is due to that gentleman who's an expert in the field for our aircraft. So some of the frequently asked questions: what type of weather keeps Guardian out of service? If we can't see at least a mile during the day or 3 miles at night, and the ceiling is less than 1,000 feet, then we're not going to fly. Our mission is not medevac. So we are a visual mission, so we need good weather. It takes us about 10 minutes to get to a call if we're not already airborne. That is reduced to 3.5 to 4 minutes in College Park. I'm not going to go into the monitoring because that's more for other officers. We're most effective in your neighborhood when the units on the ground have an efficient perimeter. When we're notified before the troops actually make a traffic stop on a felony vehicle, when the foliage is off the trees and shrubs like it is now, the camera works better in cold weather, and we know where the suspect last was seen. Again, there's the hangar contact. I ask that you use that with discretion, but feel free at any time to call or email me, and we'd be more than happy to give you a tour of our facility and our operation. And you can put hands on our helicopters. And as you all know, College Park is the world's oldest continuously operating airport. That's why we were moved there in 2003, so that Maryland National Capital Park and Planning and the City of College Park could keep that going, and that post 9/11, that airport wasn't shut down. So, and as an Army aviator, it's a privilege to work there, seeing as the first Army aviator was taught to fly there. So do you have any questions? Let me go to the chat. I don't know if there's anything new in the chat. Does anybody have a hand up that I'm not seeing?
No hands up. Oh,
Okay,
well,
yeah, there we go. Councilman Kabir, how are you?
Yeah, thank you for your service. This is amazing. For a couple of reasons. First of all, I believe this is the only College Park is the only center where you operate out of, right? I mean, there isn't any other place in the Prince George's County where your operation actually runs from, correct?
We have a temporary helipad that was built by Mr. Peterson, Milt Peterson, down at the National Harbor, right
Okay.
next to the MGM. And for the folks that don't know, he actually used his personal money through his foundation because of his support and love of aviation.
Mhm.
And it was kind of historical. We drew out the plan and how it should be set up on a napkin at the museum at College Park. So
Correct.
we do operate out of there when Tanger Outlets or the National Harbor is actually having an event. But yes, sir, we only operate 99.9% of the time out of the city of College Park.
Yeah, that's an information many of our residents do not know, and they don't probably, they will appreciate more if they knew it, because it's so close to their homes. And in many times, actually, I live in North College Park in the Hollywood neighborhood, and I believe more than at least 2 or 3 times over the years, we have seen your helicopters helped the police to find someone fleeing after doing some crime in the Hollywood Park or somewhere in the beltway, around the beltway. So that was really appreciated. So thank you. One question I have, and you actually answered a little bit. It's about the noise from the helicopters, that your helicopters are pretty quiet, and we often we often get questions, not necessarily complaints. It looks like it could be someone else's helicopter, probably news helicopters or something, that caused this kind of noise. And thank you for your service as part of the DMV's the congressional investigation into the loud noise from the helicopters around the area beltway. Do you know where that investigation is currently? I know your helicopter is not at fault, but there has been some other helicopters are doing it, and this has been going on for 2-3 years now, probably. Do you know where is the status now?
Yes, sir. Yes. So you're absolutely correct. 2017 is when the committee was put together. It was actually put together in 2019, following an uptick in noise complaints in 2017. In the College Park area, most of the noise complaints have been different military units with military aircraft. And if I was a betting person, I would say one of their sons or daughters goes to the campus. And so they're circling around. And that's a straightforward, honest answer, what I think. There have been a lot of changes in the airspace itself for the way helicopters operate has not dramatically changed in decades. It has always had certain routing, certain altitudes, certain requirements. Now, for police aircraft, those in a time of life-saving, or let's say a carjacking or a homicide or a fresh pursuit, those rules kind of go out the window. But when the military aircraft are doing their training missions, they are supposed to be at 1,000 feet MSL above sea level, which means that in the College Park area, they're anywhere from 900 to 950 feet above the ground. They are doing a much better job at keeping those altitudes. And part of our issue that we're having a discussion with the FAA. They're so afraid to come off the routes that are published that they're flying through our police orbits, and it's causing a danger to the flight crews for Guardian. So it's improving. There's a lot less noise complaints, but due to different political reasons and to the sensitivity of the national airspace, there just have been more units involved. Post 9/11, they realized they could move the 600 people involved with the 3 branches of government. In other words, they could move the Supreme Court justices, they could move the White House and primary staff, and they could move Congress. But when they got to their hide site or to the place that they were going to conduct our government's business, they didn't have the people that had the laptops and all the knowledge and information. So the United States' work basically ceased functioning other than for cell phone calls. So they needed to figure out how to move tier 1 people along with tier 2 people, which are all the folks that are actually doing the work, the chiefs of staff, the primaries and the secondaries of the, and so that's what a huge influx of aircraft in the region are for. They are mostly continuity of government reasons. I hope that further clarifies.
Yeah, thank you. I see some other residents that have been asking questions along the line. One of the conclusions of their initial reports about the noise complaints on the flying object, sorry, the helicopters, that there will be more coordination between different parties, like the different helicopter units, like the police helicopters and Muse helicopters and the Army helicopters. Do you know if that is happening? Even we heard about there will be a portal or something where residents should be able to see what is going on about the path of the helicopters. They can see or something, some kind of information they'll be publishing in one place. Do you know if
Yeah,
someone is
so-
working on it?
And that brings up a number of things. We've had news helicopters. When an officer was murdered in the southern part of the county, the family was in Vegas on a trip and learned of the death of their father and husband by seeing his body lying in the middle of the street before they heard from official channels. So as an airborne law enforcement officer, I can actually put up a temporary flight restriction and move those news aircraft out. But that's only when I'm there actually performing a duty. As soon as I leave in the helicopter to go to get fuel, they are by law allowed to collapse back in. The FAA is a regulatory but not criminal agency, and due to our freedoms, they do not want to prevent news and other folks from being able to legally fly, not doing something nefarious. So for us to communicate with each other is very easy. We have air-to-air radios, but there's no means of really letting citizens know exactly what helicopter is over them at all times. And there's some security measures as to why that's not. We didn't want to let know which helicopter the president's in when the 3 of them fly away from downtown. It's the same reason why you're not going to really tell what aircraft are where and flying, so they can't be targeted by somebody wanting to do ill to any aircraft. Plus there's laws against it. There's protections and privacies for people operating aircraft also. So, but when they break the rules and disturb the peace, that's where the conversation needs to be had. And that's why they started that congressional committee.
Thank you.
If there's not another hand, yes, Bob.
Yeah, Smitty, there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Yep.
But before you look at those, just to reiterate what has already been said, the fact that we have, the Prince George's Police Aviation Unit based right here in College Park means a lot to the city. The helicopters have to take off and land here in College Park. You've seen some of the equipment they have on board, and so in fact, every time they take off and land, they're patrolling part of our city. And so we certainly want to keep them based here. And so just to mention that, we benefit a lot. And as Lieutenant Smith said, he and several other aviation officers work for the city on the ground as contract patrol officers also. So there is a lot of concern for the city among the aviation unit. So that's my pitch, and I'll turn it back.
And I appreciate it, Bob. And again, seriously, for anybody on this call, please mark down this number that you see below my name on the slide. I'm still sharing, so you can actually call and set up and come over to the unit. Stephanie So that it's like a diode. Um, if you can imagine a little electronic strip that is put into a piece of paper and stuffed into the money, one of the money packs. So let's say somebody steals a package of 2,000 in $20 bills. They'll slide these cards in that have an electronic diode that I can actually pick up from the helicopter. So that's what the device is. Instead of dye blowing up and hoping you see a person with pink dye all over them, it's actually a money tracker to not only find the suspect, but return the currency. So when we hear a helicopter would not be yours, 99 out of 100 times it's not. Just to give you an idea, if you were a College Park resident, our aircraft have taken off and landed 45,000 times since we've been there. And if you don't remember seeing us that much, that's a pretty darn good number, if I might say. We adopt the Fly Neighborly, the FAA Fly Neighborly program. And part of that is flying over areas that are industrial, business, but not residential as we take off and land. Doesn't happen 100% of the time because sometimes the call is so vital. There might be a drowning child in a river. We're going to go the most direct route we can as fast as we can. So I'm not, Ruth, can you, you say you thought you had to use College Park Airport to, regardless of where we left from.
I had a Marine living next door to me when I lived in College Park, and he said that helicopters operate by pinging from air traffic control tower to air traffic control tower. So he said, you'll notice a lot of helicopters because they're pinging using College Park. But I'm fascinated by the helicopters. It doesn't bother me. I think it's great, but.
No, I guess the good Marine wasn't an aviation person because that's boy, I have so many Marine jokes coming to mind right now. No, we don't have to follow. In fact, you're supposed to, helicopters are by FAA regulation to avoid the flow of fixed wing traffic at airports. The best way to do that is stay away from them. Now, College Park is our airport of home, so that's quite different. And we have very little fixed wing traffic into College Park just because it's pretty difficult to do that. For Todd, are there are rules for news traffic aircraft where they can fly and how long? Unfortunately, no. If they are above 500 feet, so the cardinal rule is you're supposed to be 500 feet away from a person, an object, or a thing. And when they sit over the Beltway and Route 1 at an accident at 1,000 feet, they're going to be there droning with their tail rotor, making all that noise, and you will hear it for as long as they're there. And that's one of the reasons why we use the aircraft we use. So unfortunately, there's not. And I feel for you with that question. And Sharon, you may have to adjust audio settings for us to hear. I know I need to figure out how to do that. So let's do that. I don't see any other hands or question.
Hey, Aaron, just real quick.
Yes, sir.
Could you just, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you just explain to everyone in the audience some of the awards that the aviation unit has received, talking about the Flair Award, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's great work, and I think people should understand how good you guys are and how you've been recognized nationwide.
I appreciate that, sir. Yes. So FLIR, which if you've ever looked at military equipment or heard about thermal imaging, again, thermal imaging is taking a picture of the heat anywhere from 100 or for 230 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and then divide those 283 degrees by 8. So you're looking at almost 1,450 data points to actually build a picture. So the company that's the most famous of it is FLIR. The military has FLIR on all the Navy ships and on attack aircraft, on fighters. And that's the camera that we use on our aircraft. And so they have an international policing award, of which our units won 7 of them, of which 3 were first place, 2 were second place, and then there was a third and then a canine. And that's going up against every other law enforcement agency in the world. So to give you an idea, 2 years ago, there was 110 video submissions, of which 43 were ours. So our folks, and you'll recognize maybe some of the names here when I go into the video, are some of the best observers at what they do in the country. Some of the other things about the unit, again, it has an incident accident-free reputation. It is a very rigorous training program that I've put all the pilots through. Sometimes they want to kill me by the time they get cut loose, but once they get cut loose as a pilot in command and they're on their own and it's 4 o'clock in the morning and they're tired, they understand why it was so rigorous. There are 9 law enforcement helicopter units in this region. For performance and effectiveness, we are number 1 by over 100%. So if you were to draw a chart and have 9 helicopter units, you would have ours at the top, and then you would go down 50% before you hit the next one. That's how effective the unit is. And again, it's very cost effective. I don't want to go too much into cost, but to give you an idea, the Assistant Office of Law Attorney for Prince George's County has been very helpful to the unit. And she and her husband came to the unit to inspect it and see it. When I asked her how much she thought the helicopter unit cost the county to run, she said probably between $10 and $12 million a year. We actually, with our own insurance, we're not self-insured the way the rest of the county is. We have an insurance policy, $4 million per helicopter with $55 million liability. All the fuel, all the maintenance, the lease of our building, all the utilities, everything we do is only $1.2 million. So if you were to take all the felony apprehensions that we had last year, and they were all worthy of a Crime Solvers $25,000 award for a tip, that would have been $5,050,000 that would have been paid out in Crime Solvers. But instead, for 1.2 million, you didn't just get a tip, you actually got an apprehension and handcuffs on them. So that, along with not even counting all the recovered vehicles, the saved lives, the missing children, the missing Alzheimer's patients, and all those things, it is a very cost-effective unit. And so that's my little punch there for what we cost. I am going to bring up the video if I can find it. Pardon me while I stop sharing, and I'll let Major Coletti or Bob or Sharon or one of the folks, if you have any questions.
So while Aaron's looking for the video, does anybody have any questions? So earlier tonight, just general information, we were working a shooting, 68th Avenue, Annapolis Road, where the victim was shot in the neck. Just something that we're working in Division 1 currently.
Say that block again.
Annapolis Road at 68th Avenue.
Oh, I'm not getting home tonight.
It'll be cleared up by
Okay.
the time you get it, by the time you leave, Sharon.
So I don't know if, are you seeing this? Just
Yes.
a still shot. Okay, great. This is our old FLIR camera. It's going to be hard to watch, but it's the technology we used for 18 years. And then you're going to see our new camera. Now, the point is not to show you the difference in the camera. That just happens to show how we have evolved. But both observers in the 3 videos are College Park contract officers. And I happen to be blessed with being Baker 55 at the night that this call that you're about to see, and the third one was Officer Weincoop and myself. So you had a lot of College Park contract officers in these 3 videos, and we didn't have to go far to try to find that. There's a lot of these videos where we're flying over the community as we're going on a patrol and we notice something, or when we're coming back in and tired, the guys are still supposed to go and look for potential crimes. So Sharon, talk me through sharing the video or the audio, if you can remind me.
Hang on a second. I was Googling that while you were chatting earlier. So if you go to your settings next to your name, you should have 3 dots next to your name
Okay, I
on the
should have-
screen. Yeah, on the screen.
All right, 3 dots.
And you should see settings. Where to go, where to go? Or try
Yes, Major. Go
sorry.
ahead, Sharon.
Try the bottom of your screen where you found the shared
Okay.
icon, and you should see dots there, and you may be able to viewing options. Ruth is giving me tips because it's been a while. Go ahead, Ruth. I'm going to ask you to drive him through that because we weren't able to hear the video earlier.
I think if you go to the top of your screen where it says view options, click on that, and then it'll give you an option to share your sound. You just got to scroll through those. You see it?
In view options.
Yeah, it's stupid, but that's where it is. So go to view options. If you click on that, you get a drop down box.
So that must be on the computer itself, you mean, for the software in Windows?
It should show, if you're the host, it should show on your screen.
He's not hosting, but he's sharing. Let's see.
All right, well, I'm going to,
Or you can talk us through the sound if you'd like to.
Yeah.
I am going to just talk you through it again, and I can fast forward these. These are 2 gentlemen that are tampering. They're up in the Hollywood section. This is so you can hear Baker 57 and Baker 55 answering up. This is on Edgewood. This is between Magnum and Lackawanna off of Narragansett. So, Mr. Kabir, that's up in your area. So this is what we call, it's in black hot. So the hottest things in the environment are darker and the coolest things are lighter.
So it's not actually snowing, right? Not necessarily.
If we had audio, would we be hearing communications?
Yeah, you would
between?
hear it. I'm still desperately trying to figure out how to share that audio. You would be hearing not only the helicopter crew, but the officers in College Park and working Division 1 responding.
Wow. Threefold.
I think it's a good point, Aaron, that
All right, so they're in a vehicle now. I'm gonna advance this to the next one. Now they're going, this is the standard thing you hear in College Park where people forget to leave their doors unlocked. This is what happens. These suspects just walk right down the street, one on one side, one on the other, checking every door. And you can see the gentleman now, he's inside as his partner's standing watch. And you might be wondering why there's different color hoods. That just gives you an idea of how long ago the vehicle was driven. So for November 22nd at 3:10 in the morning, it's probably about 40 degrees out. Those vehicles were probably driven about 2 hours ago. All right, so here's the new camera. This is on Calvert. And this is a gentleman who has just robbed the CVS up at the 7400 block, and he is walking down towards the College Park post office, which you can see there right at the bottom of the screen. And then this is where he ducks because he sees Sergeant Wynkoop coming. And he's going to duck down behind this vehicle. So you can see how warm the officer is. That's a little extra warmth because he's getting out of his warm vehicle. But these are the type of keys that the officers use. This is up in the Hollywood section. 3 gentlemen are seen by Chris Elrod, who's been working with the College Park program for about 12 years. And these gentlemen start checking every door of every car they pass. And you can see how well they stand out. The computer or the thermal camera is now in white hot, which means something that's hot is white. You can see the street light. You can see the metal caps on that house's chimney and how cool it is. It is 2:30 in the morning on the 16th of January of 2020. And you can see how well these 3 gentlemen stand out in this FLIR picture. Again, the tree branches, the power lines, everything you see is just a passive disc with a coppery type coating on it, just sensing different Fahrenheit temperatures and building that picture from the heat. It's pretty amazing technology.
Hey, Aaron, I think also the suspects never looked up at the aircraft. So when people talk about our aircraft being so loud, we're following these suspects and they don't even hear our aircraft. So I think that's a good point just to let people understand that our aircraft is not noisy like others.
No, sir, and that's a good point. So I'll show you that and you can see proof of it on the screen. If you folks look at the upper left where it says PGPD Guardian, that is showing the lat long of where the helicopter is. That is doing 63 knots, which is about 70 miles an hour. And we're at 1,054 feet above sea level. So that is 1,000 feet above that part of Hollywood. The camera is the data over in the upper right. And that data is showing what the crosshair, which is your cross in the middle of the screen, which is pointed at the vehicle next to the 3 suspects. That shows you the lat long of that. It's a good evidentiary reason. That little camera is being moved across the ground by Corporal Elrod at 3 miles an hour. But the camera is also 3,028 feet away, well over half a mile away. So if you can imagine operating the world's quietest helicopter and being over half a mile away, they have no idea we're there. And so neither do you sleeping in your bed at night. So that's why we have no noise complaints, is we can do our duty from quite a standoff. So long and short of it is, I came from one direction and Wine Coop came from the other direction, and we ended up arresting all three suspects. So that's what I had in the way of video information. If there's any other questions.
Thank you.
More than welcome.
Jamie, I see you have your hand raised, or you're clapping, I'm sorry.
These videos are fantastic. Is it possible to post them on your website somewhere? We could actually share them with the
Yeah,
community.
that would be, you know, what you should do again is arrange a time to come visit. We'd love to have you. We have a 72-inch screen that we train on for conducting classwork, but you can watch any of these that you would like to. It's kind of taboo. Number one, as long as they're evidentiary, we don't share them. We have a very tight, strict rule so that somebody can't take a posting of ours and, unbeknownst to us, post it on social media and then end up getting the unit in trouble. When we have no desire to do that. There are other helicopter units across the nation that have Facebook pages and TikTok and all that. I think that's very unprofessional. I don't know how they get away with it. As Major Coletti can attest, we try to be not only above the best, but above reproach, and always being the consummate professional. And not that being able to see those is not professional. I think it's wonderful. I would love to be able to share this with the good citizens that we serve. It's just, you never know in modern day political climate what somebody's going to do with that information.
Hey, Aaron, I'd like to put you on the spot, and Bob, you too. Maybe after it warms up, maybe in a few months, maybe 6 months or so, maybe could we possibly hold this meeting, this forum at the hangar and give everyone a tour of the facility? Aaron, you can take a couple of the videos, show everybody in your conference area. I think that would go a long way if that's something everybody's interested in doing.
Absolutely. We enjoy that. Especially the College Park contract officers that work there at Aviation. And we would love to have that happen.
Yeah, I think we have the core group with us tonight, folks who are consistently with us every month. So if this group thinks that's a good idea, certainly. And of course, I would expect Lieutenant Smith to put on some aerobatics for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could absolutely do a little demo. For instance, we would have one aircraft with the benches on it. We might even be able to have another aircraft with the Bambi bucket, which is how we fight fires. But the big thing is for you folks to come and see our operation. Again, part of our struggles right now is we're in the Wright Brothers hangar, and it has a 1970s skin on it, but it's still an historic site and nobody really wants to mess with it, and understandably so. But the back half, which is the office area, was condemned. It's collapsing. It has weeds growing on it. So we're trying to figure out what our future is. So we put the nicest lipstick on our pig, and we would love to have you come see us. And we'll do a barbecue and welcome you with open arms.
We can work on that. And yeah, so Lieutenant Smith is, I don't want to use the word entertaining, but I've seen him do stuff with a Chinook that I never thought something that big could do. Some years ago at I think that was the 100th anniversary of the airport. There was a demonstration, and
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Smith brought his Army Chinook and crew and did some amazing stuff. So these units, the police units, are like sports cars to him. You know, he drives a bus and for the Army, and this is his sports car. So it's pretty amazing to watch.
We had a hand raised, but I think it was lowered. Do you still have a question or comment, Mr. Reitzel?
I was clapping, that's all.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
Thanks.
And there's a question, would that event be open to all the residents of College Park? And I think I can say yes.
Yeah, I think that would be fine if we could get a good head count or an idea. But hey, that's what we do. We move and with the tide. So if we have more than we're planning on it, the more the merrier.
And you know, you've seen what this unit does, and so you could spread the word. I mean, obviously, funding comes from your tax dollars, you know, residents of Prince George's County, and so you know, get the word out that you want to continue to support this unit. And Lieutenant Smith said they're looking at options for a new hangar, so we want to keep that hangar in College Park. And I think our new city manager, Kenny Young, is a strong advocate of that. So if there are any other questions, yes, the city would advertise the event. That's another question. If there's anything else,
Hey, Bob, hey, Corporal Aubin, do you have anything for the group? Community policing officer?
Yes, I'm Corporal Obin. Only thing I have is we have a bi-weekly coffee club that meets every second and fourth Wednesday from the hours of 9 to 10. On April the 13th, we will have County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. She will be our guest speaker. If you have any questions or that you would like to submit, she prefers us to send her questions so her guest staff could evaluate the questions before she answers them. So if you have any questions, you could forward them to me and I will forward them to the co-chair, which is Ms. Hinton, and she will then provide Ms. Alsobrooks the questions before she attends the meeting on April the 12th between the hours of 9, and we will extend the time to 11. That's the only thing I have.
thank you. And probably the strongest supporter of the coffee club is on the meeting tonight, former council member Monroe Dennis, who always announced the coffee club at council meetings. And I think council member Kabir is going to take over that role and announce coffee club, I believe.
Okay. So if anyone needs any information about our coffee club, it'll be provided in the Nextdoor, and I provide with my crime stats on a weekly basis. Just follow the link and you'll see it on the Nextdoor website if you're on the Nextdoor server.
If there are no further questions, we can close out for tonight. I think if you take a quick look at the chat, you'll see my email, Major Clutty's email, Lieutenant Smith's email, all in the chat. And so feel free to contact any of us. And again, we're always, I think this has been one of the most interesting presentations we've had in this series. And so if you have any ideas of presentations you'd like, we want to showcase Prince George's County Police, but any other public safety presentation that you can think of. As you know, we had a presentation on home fire safety and home emergency preparedness. And so any public safety and health topic that you're interested in, we will try to get the best presenter that we can and continue the series. So thank you to everyone. And I see Corporal Logan has posted his email address. So if you want more information about the coffee club, check that out. So last call for questions. And if there are none, everyone have a safe night, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, Bob. Good night.
Right.
Right.